Welcome everybody to my Monday weekday chess stream here on Lee Chess and Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall. We are streaming here for you from Budapest, Hungary. Let's see if the stream goes up and running. I wasn't sure about the chat room there. Yesterday we had a little problem with the simul. Yeah, it's looking good. A little problem with the simul. Our computer crashed. Which we used to actually play on, and it overheated maybe. I don't know. It was a kind of possible blue screen of death, but it might have just been because it was overheating. I'm not sure. I ran it a lot yesterday, and usually I let it rest a little bit when I use some intensive programs. So we were able to finish the simul off, but this kind of missed the last 15 minutes of the show, basically. I didn't really have time to go over those simul games too much. We had some interesting simul games yesterday, and I think I was a little tired, more tired than usual. Usually, I feel a little bit more energy. I kind of got in time pressure yesterday, more than I usually do. I let the time maybe get down a little bit too low. So I thought it could have gone a little bit better. We had missed the week before with the simul, but we'll get back to get back on par basically with the simuls. Anyway, maybe I'll even go over some of those simul games for a video for my YouTube channel in the coming days. So let's get on to some blitz and classical chess here on Lee Chess. It's good to have you guys. Our moderator Jeroen will be here, but I think he has to go away for an hour. So don't tell the trolls that he's gonna be disappearing. F47 saddest troll, the only troll we really accept here on the stream. Shansha and Lonely Master. Welcome, guys. That's a strong lineup. M47 played an interesting game against me yesterday in my simul. It was an English opening where I defended with a rather risky plan of bishop takes c3. And Shansha, we haven't seen you in a long time. I hope you're well. Lonely Master, tough new player who's been here a few times. So Saddest Troll is challenging us to 960. We will play 1 or 2 Chess 960 games if you guys want to do that. I'm not seeing my chat room working on... For some reason, it's unable to connect to chat. But I can see the... I can actually see the stream, but I can't connect to the chat for some reason, which is really bizarre. Maybe my Twitch just doesn't want to cooperate, but... I'm sure you guys are trying to talk to me. I really got to have that working. The video is good, but I couldn't get chat working. Some kind of a glitch there. You guys got to be able to interact with me. There it works. All right, now I had to refresh it and it's working. Shansha took a 1-week break. That's fine, man. I mean, I think that's something you should do. You get burned out. Doing anything constantly. I mean, chess is definitely one of those things. So... if you guys feel like you're burned out, I mean, take some time off from playing or do something different or just step away for a while. All right, so we're going to get started with Saddest Troll. It's Chess 960. I'm taking that first because the game is feels a little slower. When I play Chess 960, kind of get woken up. I had a really weird night last night. Got to sleep, everything was fine, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I came under attack from the mosquito, I guess, that was in my office earlier in the evening. And I don't mind getting bitten by mosquitoes, but that they wake me up in the middle of the night, it's very annoying. So it's very strange that there's mosquitoes this late in September, and there's been no rain for the last 3 weeks in Budapest. It's kind of bizarre. Not sure what's up with that, but the second thing that happened was an hour later at 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up because there was this huge motor sound in the middle of the courtyard. I live in an old building, and there was this sound. It sounded like somebody was driving a moped around in the courtyard of my building. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And everybody in the whole house woke up and watching down to see what's going on in the middle of the courtyard of my house. And it sounded like a motorcycle was riding around. And people were banging something. There was some drunk person just going crazy. But it turned out that it was some kind of pipe problem. They had to turn on they had to turn on basically a gas powered pump in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning, to I guess to like drain water or something. Just a really bizarre occurrence. So first I was attacked mosquitoes, and then I was woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning by a gas-powered engine in the courtyard of the buildings. It was really, really weird night. Then I had this weird dream that like there was a world war going to start. There was a news announcement that Sweden had been attacked. I hope nobody hears from Sweden. Yeah, I really had this dream. It was very realistic that there was an announcement on the news that Sweden had been attacked and there was going to be a world war. That's basically it, but sorry about that, Sweden. It's not something to joke around about. Alright, let's get on with it. Anyway, very strange night. Glad to have that behind me. We're going to play G3. And also knight e2, I guess, is plausible. Anyway, I wanted to get this bishop developed. So any comments or questions about my strange night last night, just let me know. Otherwise, we can talk about chess. I don't know what to say. I didn't really review the simul games too much. I did think about a few of them. I had some strange games, and I got in really, really brutal time pressure in the simul yesterday. So I felt that my game was very negatively affected by getting in time pressure. Perhaps by not playing the simul the week before. I was a little bit out of tune or something with the rhythm of how much time I have to use for the simul and stuff. So, but nevertheless, there were some good games and some interesting games. And the one thing I noticed is that I consider myself to kind of be. I think my biggest weakness is probably in opening theory, but I'm not getting in trouble in the openings in my simul games, which is interesting. I mean, almost never got a bad position in the opening, and just I'll tend to miss tactics and stuff like that. So that's our main demon in the simuls, is just basically missing pretty obvious tactics. Saronchi, welcome, man. Hope you can stay for a little bit and just kind of corral the trolls into a controlled entity. Good to see you, man. Yeah, it was a very strange night, Shansha. It's a good thing you live in Iceland, not Sweden. Bishop g2 is... Actually, we don't ever have any Swedish players. It's kind of weird. Pretty much we have players from all other European countries here, but I haven't seen Sweden on the stream. I think we've had Norway before. I don't think we've had anybody from Sweden. It's kind of weird. There's like a Swedish boycott against my stream. I don't know what's up with that, but it seems to be the case. Rook d8. Now, what's up? You're trying to play d5? You wouldn't dare open the position, would you, troll? Let's try to discourage him. We could play b3. And we're going to have to play b3 at some point anyway to develop this piece effectively. Yeah, Saronchi, maybe you didn't hear what I was telling my story. That I had a lot of incidents waking me up in the night last night, but then I had this weird dream that Sweden was attacked, like by the beginning of a world war. So you're not that far away there, you know, in Holland. Silly Turtle says, I've been watching for a few weeks, but haven't made myself known. I figured I'd do that now. I'm a pretty weak player, but it's fun to see a strong player commentate live while not playing Bullet, where there's no hope of getting any insight. Yeah, I feel like the Bullet is kind of like a macho show or something. I don't know, you know. It's like a show of machismo. I don't know. I've never really been into Bullet. I love playing Blitz. And I can't really play Blitz and commentate effectively at the same time. I feel like it hurts both, you know. My fast Blitz, I mean, like Bullet-ish Blitz. 2 minute, 3 minute, how you would play fast Blitz. Even I wouldn't try to play 3 minute here on the stream. Yeah, thanks, Silly Turtle, because that's kind of the idea. I mean, to really get some benefit, we need to take time to talk about it. That's why my simul is kind of long. Yesterday I did a simul as well. It does take like 2.5 hours, but if you break down my games, I have to play every game in like 7 minutes, basically. So if you divide up to 20 plus games that I play, all my games are more or less like 7-minute games. I guess that would be the quality level. It'd be equal to like a 7-minute Blitz game. So that's the minimum. I mean, anything faster than that would be like really, really horrible quality for me, so I don't want to make the simul much faster than that. But yeah, well, that's what we aim for, trying to really get something out of it instead of wasting our time. Just, again, I've said, before, I just feel like the bullet is like chess masturbation. I mean, it's just like, it can be useful for practicing your tactics and a little bit of opening repetition, but basically, I just don't think it's necessary, especially with like tournaments being like 5-second increment. Bullet is just like a drug addiction. I mean, it's really just not necessary. I don't mean to say it's worthless, but if you want to improve in chess, real chess at the highest levels is played with like a long time control, and chess is made to be like that. I mean, bullet is something else, but yeah, we try to emphasize improving and really thinking and using your time. In the simul, a lot of people get carried away and sort of play faster than they need to, and I get kind of pissed off sometimes. But they're excited, they're trying to win on time, and I understand how it is. If you have a bad position, then I think trying to blitz the other guy has some validity. But if you have a good position, I think that it's always a mistake to try to blitz the other guy. Alright, so knight f5 now. Got to be careful with this guy. It looks like a King's Indian where I've fianchetted my bishop over here, which is not really a very effective development for that piece. We have some weaknesses. I mean, c3 will create really big play for black along the d file, so it's going to be hard for me to coordinate this bishop into the rest of the position. Maybe bishop b2, bishop c1, bring it back and to use it along this diagonal, like in a normal King's Indian type position, would be the best for white here. Now I'm addicted to bullets, and I left playing bullets and I started to see your stream. Now I'm not addicted. Yeah, it's really like, exactly. I mean, I know strong players who became really addicted to bullet chess, like Larry Christensen is basically the perfect example. You have like a 60-year-old guy, or maybe Larry's not 60, but he's close if he's not. Pretty much like close to 60-year-old GM, and all he does is play bullet, and it's kind of sad, really. I mean, he's a great tactician, so he has great success in bullet chess, where most of the game is sort of dependent on tactics. But, it's not really, he's not doing himself any justice. He's not going to improve. He's going to just stay at the same level because he doesn't work on his longer game. He's been the same strength for the last 20 years, basically. And if you look at Kramnik, who's 41, who's obviously not addicted to bullet chess, Kramnik is the antithesis of that. I think that, he's improved. He's improved at the age of 41, which is pretty amazing. I think he's actually, over the last 5 or 10 years, improved a little bit. And it's a testament to how hard he works on the game. So, yeah, it's as a recreation, bullet chess, is fine. And maybe it's the future of online chess competition because with longer time controls, people are, capable of using computers to cheat. Harder to do at bullet chess. So there's one argument for playing bullet chess, but I'm sure that they can even get around that. So you can program a bot to play for you in bullet chess, and I'm sure the capability to do that has existed for a long time. But yeah, thanks Turtle, because that is the point here, to try to not only for you guys, but for me. I want to improve from this. I want to improve from doing this, and I want to get to be a stronger player. I was out of chess like competitively for the last 6 years, and I played like occasional Hungarian team championship games, but I didn't work on my game. I was playing poker. I just played blitz sometimes online, but I just really want to improve too, and I can't do that by playing really fast time controls. I want to get better. When I improved the most, honestly, was back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and I was playing training games against computers, actually. I would play long games with the strongest computer engines at like normal 40 moves 2 hour time controls. And I think that's the point where I got the strongest around that time when I was playing training games at long time controls. So, I mean, it's the opposite of bullet chess, basically. F6, yeah, it looks like he's kind of like loosening the position here. So bishop h3, this bishop on a8, what I was talking about would apply to Satis Troll too. Normally in a King's Indian type formation, that bishop is, you know, best on c1. I would occasionally get this kind of position. What I would draw an analogy with this is sometimes I'll play the hippo type formation with double fianchetto, like e3, d3, g3, b3 type formations. And when you play the hippo out of like an English defense or modern, oftentimes you have the bishop on b2. It has to be rerouted when the center closes with something like bishop c1 or bishop c8 for black. And that's what's going on here. Okay, well, let's put concepts into practice. Bishop b2, getting this guy back in the game. Attacking the head of the pawn chain. As Nimzovich taught, it's not usually the right idea. It does work effectively sometimes, but most of the time it's like just creating a kind of weakness on d3. So I don't necessarily want to do that. Bringing this guy back into the game. That's not really a straight line, but we'll let it go. You're not addicted from March this year. Thank you. Weird dreams indeed. Does anyone play at chess.com? Yeah, I'm sure that chess.com is popular. I never really liked it. I always played on other chess sites, but no, not chess.com. I've played on most chess sites that exist at some point or another, all the major ones. Maybe I should have played f5 last move. How about my queen on b1? That's a good placement for the queen, huh? Let's play a4. Just in case he comes in here and wants to take my a pawn away, I'd like to play a4. You could argue it weakens my queen side a tiny bit, but we'll just have to live with that. I really don't want to block my bishop in by playing f5. I think f5 is an interesting idea, but we're going to like bail on that temporarily. And Troll finally, I was waiting for him to do it, basically. So he finally borrowed the plan there I suggested, and then now I'm closing it up with f5. And now we take with the rook, probably, although pawn takes is conceivable. Rook takes, and we have a slight upper hand here, I think. You could argue that black has a better center, and now Troll allows this exchange on g5, which isn't mandatory. My bishop's pretty good. It is a good bishop. So we should think outside the box a little bit. I mean, is it really worth it to trade for the knight? It's not bad for sure to play bishop takes g5 and go into this ending where he's got a very bad bishop. It's definitely not the only plan though. We could play g4 and go for knight g3, knight h5. I figured this is the best move. And we can attack f6. So I'm not sold on taking this guy. I mean, it's probably good for white, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily the best move here. Well, that's a generous offer, Mr. Troll. I can't refuse. A pawn is a pawn. Could also play knight h5 there. So, well, honestly, maybe he could have tried to blockade with f5, g5. I think that would have been a pretty logical sort of resource. I did have e5 last move. Now it's too late. Troll has sacrificed a pawn for the active B with open line, which I think is better than defending passively for sure. He doesn't really have any compensation for it. So, man, how do you practice versus engines? I don't anymore, Sean Shaw. I used to, and I stopped because it became like, well, it became too difficult. You know, basically until 2004, I would say I was playing engines. About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I stopped because they were like, you know, it was too overwhelming. Although maybe I should do it and just set the engine like not on maximum level. I mean, I never really. There's also a question of time and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could set the engine to a level where you can have a chance against it. I want it to be really strong, but the newer engines in the last 10 years on maximum strength are basically, you know, humiliating to play against. They don't even let you can't even like draw maybe one game in 20 or something. So it's really brutal. It's a little bit like dehumanizing to continue to do it. But at the time when I was doing it, the programs were kind of still beatable, and so there was, you know, I would score like maybe 25% against these engines back, you know, 10, 12 years ago. I would make a lot of draws and very, 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 very rarely beat an engine in a game. But anyway, that was a good way to improve my game. Let's get on with some blitz and classical chess here. Lots of strong players like seem to want to play. M47 played the English yesterday. There was a big explosion in Budapest. Everything okay? It's interesting, Skevingen. There was an explosion, but just on Saturday night. M47 says, I don't like that you were sent to the boards on which you had less time. So players who blitz out their moves get up in the queue again. Yeah, M47, it's pretty weird. In the simul, it felt like I was like losing my time. He's talking about the simul yesterday. We had some problems with time. So anyway, to answer Seveningen's question, there was a mysterious explosion on Saturday night, I guess. In a kind of, what I heard it was kind of an abandoned flat, and the police officer got hurt or something. It's very mysterious. There are already like conspiracy theories. There's a big referendum coming up in Hungary about like whether to support the migrants coming. You know, how many migrants should be allowed in Hungary, and I don't know. It's just really weird. I mean, it's possible there was a terrorist act, but why would they do it in like an abandoned apartment? If it was like, it's just really bizarre. But I don't know. It wasn't in like the BBC. Just locally, I saw it in the news here. So that's, you don't know. I mean, I really don't know much more than you do, Skeveningen. But yeah, the government is suspecting terrorism, but it's not like it's a big issue here in Budapest. I don't know. So that's where we stand on that. The Bobby Fischer 2 says, is Alexander a real WGM? Well, man, this is the internet, and we're not even sure that Alexandra is, you know, an alien, or maybe she's friends with Lumjanov and has been abducted. No, you don't know anything for sure. I mean, it's just something they wrote in their name there, WGM. It's not a title awarded that has been recognized by Lee Chess on the site. We don't know who Alexandra is. It's playing pretty well, like Master Strength, basically, but that's all we know. Kind of like the bomb explosion, we really don't have that much information. Although it has played pretty well against me, I will say. Bishop d3, we had this a couple games now. So last time we played m4-7, he played queen h5 check, and yesterday in the simul we had a guy who played queen e2. We actually won a nice game. We had a couple people in the simul who played quickly enough that they only use their increment, you know. And one guy beat me, and I'm not saying he was an engine, but it's like, that's pretty impressive, you know, to like beat me and only use like 40 seconds a move. I think, you know, is pretty good. So he's actually now gone with yesterday's game, Queen E2. And I made a terrible error. Queen H5 check, G6, Queen E2. And this is the last game against M47 on Friday, I think. Queen H5 check, G6, Queen E2. I played Knight C6, forgetting that I'm supposed to play Knight F6 first. So you have to play Knight F6 in this type of position first, as far as I know. I just want to make sure, this is what I played yesterday, but I want to make sure this is right here. I don't really have another move, I feel like. I could take on E4. Bishop takes E4, bishop takes E4, queen takes E4. M47, there's also a queen sacrifice I could have played against you, which is very weird. After Queen H5 check, G6, Queen E2. I could play, let's see, I did play Knight C6 there, Knight F3, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, Knight F6, bishop G5, and there I had Knight takes E4, sacking a queen for almost enough material. That's kind of an interesting line. To take a look at that, but you guys probably can't follow. I'm just hoping that M47 understands, because he played the game with me, so he'll know what I'm talking about. But she plays like a WGM, plays like a master of some sort. So Queen E2, I don't know. Knight F6, I think. Here. Looks like the right move. I don't really play the English defense a lot, but it's kind of a good repertoire against the English opening. M47 had some comments here you guys might see. Players who take their time don't get to play much moves against you just because you get to play their board every 5 minutes, while you get to boards with blitz players every single minute. In my opinion, it would be better if you would be sent in order like the opponents played the moves. I agree, man. We can submit the suggestion to. Right, you played like 5 moves with Babak 888 while I waited for one single move. And in the end, this guy just loses. Well, Babak 888, yeah, he did what is like the worst thing to do, basically. Just keep making instant moves in a bad position to try to play for time. It's not a good idea. Okay, so this is Knight C6. Yeah, that's what we really don't want. I mean, I don't want players who do that. They're just like playing like it's bullet chess in the simul, and that's exactly what kind of ruins it. I agree with M47. Shansha, I was starting to think that Alexander was your when you weren't here. I was starting to think that Alexander was your secret identity or something. Because she started playing every day and then you were gone. I have to admit I have my suspicions. But now I see you're two separate people. This is actually, it's like the same as yesterday, I think. With Babak. Maybe M47 has an improvement on Babak's game. And this is the exact same position as yesterday with this guy who was playing bullet against me. I won a nice game in the end. I'm not sure if it was really correct. As I said, I haven't had time to go over the games. Wow, in 4 hours the Tau Memorial starts. That's cool. So the first like good chess tournament to watch since the Olympics. The Chess Olympics, that is. To clarify. So Shansha, I'm glad you're back, man. I was worried that you were gone forever. Maybe I hurt your feelings somehow. I don't know. I always say a lot of random stuff, and I never know if maybe I said something that hurt somebody's feelings. I don't usually, but some people are sensitive, and sometimes I say something without really, being that thoughtful. That's the nature of talking like nonstop. You occasionally say something you regret, but no, I mean, I just kidding. I didn't know where you went. You've been here faithfully over the course of my streams, and except when I was in the United States, of course, which is, I realized, kind of tough for you guys in Europe. But we missed you, Shansha, for a week. Gelfand hasn't played in a top tournament in a while. Yeah, I mean, Gelfand, if you think of like an opening guru, I mean, I was thinking the other day, like, who would be, if you said like theoretician, top theoretician, who would you think about? I don't think that like it's like a modern, there's like a modern type of player now. The Caruanas and the Caruana and the Nakamura and the Carlsons, they're more reliant on like just using their databases and making practical like decisions about like which opening they should play. Whereas the old school Gelfand, he's got his repertoire that he analyzed himself personally, that he doesn't really deviate from a lot. And that kind of player is almost like extinct now. I mean, so players who know the opening, they play more deeply, and they have a lot of notes. I can't imagine, like, Gelfand must have like computers like filled with like personal like opening notes about like the Najdorf and the Grunfeld, and I mean, he's probably the best opening expert of anybody in the top chess players in the world. Maybe like Topalov and Kasparov are on the same level there, but not too many players. Most players, again, they're kind of changing their openings for specific games and stuff like that. The more modern players, Gelfand plays what he plays, and he's an old school player, but he really knows openings better than anybody. Okay, now knight f3. This is a new move for me. This position. We had logically d5 yesterday against the Babak guy, but I don't know. We could even sack the pawn temporarily. I don't see how that's gonna work though, because I don't have a good square for my knight. If I castle, pawn takes pawn, knight g4 maybe, but if I play like castle, knight takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, I don't have a place to go with the knight, so it's kind of a tough one. Maybe just pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, and we'll work it out from there. They're definitely working downstairs in my building now, so there must have been a huge water leak or something that started this whole massive construction in the middle of the night. It must have been a really big emergency to start a gas-powered pump at the middle of the night, like to wake up the whole building. I can hear something downstairs now. So pawn takes pawn. Now if I ignore the knight, it can go to f5 and become really problematic on that square. So I don't know. We could trade it off, and the bishops look kind of pointing at my king side. I could blockade the e5 square with like knight e5. Still, that knight is going to be a monster. If you conceptualize chess in that kind of way, you say to yourself, okay, this knight is just going to be a monster on f5. It's going to kill me. I'm never going to be able to get rid of it. It can be very useful. That knight on f5 could be worth way more than like a normal knight. A lot of material. I'd like to get my king to safety, but how am I going to get my king to safety here? If I play something like knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, castles, e5, and again my knight has problems. It has nowhere to go. Maybe bishop takes knight check first. While I can do it, I'm going to sort of make the decision to break up the pawn chain there. But that's kind of allowing this knight on f5 is going to be unavoidable. Unless I try to take on d4, which fixes his pawn structure. So I don't know. Kind of a no-win situation there. Maybe I should have taken on d4 first. And played something like c5. It didn't occur to me to do that. Kind of complicated. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, c5 last move, and then e5 for white. If we blockade the center and play... We blockade the center and try to play... Actually, maybe I'm threatening knight takes d3 check and bishop takes e4. Knight f5, knight takes d3 check, queen takes d3, bishop takes e4. Nearly winning a piece. He can't play knight takes g7 check because of king f7, winning the knight on g7. So that actually might work. So he can't play knight f5 immediately. And I'm threatening knight takes d3 check, winning the e4 pawn. You guys stumbled upon a decent continuation, but I still think that white has awfully good, like an awfully good kind of mass of central control. Look at that coordinated formation. Not a joke. I mean, structurally it's not great, but he has a lot of control over the center. His Hitnote says, maybe you're a Scholastic player from the USA? What? Oh. Am I losing on time? Castles, yeah. Castles looks like a good move. Although I can win a pawn here. Knight takes d3, and bishop takes e4. White may get some... He's going to get some compensation, I guess. But there's really nothing I can do about it. White will be able to play bishop g5 at some point, unless I play h6, which looks a little slow. Although I'm not going to rule anything out. And I could even take with the knight on e4, depending on where he goes. Actually, then I can't castle kings. I'd like to castle queenside in this structure. You could even say, like, queen takes d3, bishop takes e4, queen e2 or d2, and white still has some compensation. I mean, the opposite colored bishops and a strong knight on d4, you may think you're just up a pawn there, but I think that white, you know, still has some chances in that position. Well, speaking of what Bobby Fischer 2 says, I mean, there are some people who are, wow, e5. There are some people I've met who are like master rating in blitz, and over the board ratings are 1600. I've had students, not too many, at least one student who was like that. Just a really fanatical blitz player who was very fast and tactically good. Does happen. Alright, so whatever. I mean, I have a piece to spare here. Whatever happens, we can give it back. I'm not going to be greedy. I may just give the whole piece back. It's not unheard of to have, you know, this master strength blitz player who's 1600 over the board. And then again, there's people who even like intentionally sandbag the rating. Cough, cough. Skeveningen. Bishop g5, and yeah, I'm not sure. Knight e6, like d6 here. Knight e6, queen d7. Knight takes g7. Queen takes g7. Could be kind of dangerous. If I just castle. Give the piece back. I'm up a pawn, man. I don't need pieces. One pawn's enough. Ooh, I just gave him another pawn. Oops. Now it's like unclear. Oh no. Queen b8 would force a trade of queens, actually. My structure is getting kind of dubious, though. Let's try to play a little more dynamically. Subtle threat. Okay, we as usual with m4-7 get into some kind of weird blitz type situation where things are not necessarily what they seem. I really need to find a strong move. Queen g6 is kind of asking for trouble. Can actually win a pawn here? Not necessarily. Well, whatever. I'm going to trade and go into this ending, I guess. Okay, well, just a random finish. Weird game. And I think decided by time, not by position. Okay, Shan Shah, good game in the opening, interesting play. We should take a deeper look at that. m4-7. Unfortunately, the end just totally decided by randomness. His note says, I was looking for Hungarian GMs born the same year. I was. Found Peter Horvath. Yes. Do I know what kind of player he is? Horvath Petty. He's a really, really solid style player. He's kind of like an aggressive positional player. He plays very well like d4, aggressive d4 games. He likes to play the white side of the Slav and like ram the A pawn up to A5 and play a lot of like power d4, I would call it. I don't really know what he plays with black too much. I did have one game with him. I don't recall how it was. It was a draw. Now I forgot the game. He's not playing a lot though. I don't know what he does. Actually, it's ironic that you brought him up because he's one of the organizers for the tournament in. Man, I'm having memory loss. There's a tournament coming up in Hungary, and Horvath is Horvath. There's a lot of Horvath. It's a very common name. Obviously, it means like Croatian or whatever. But he's one of the organizers of a tournament coming up in November, usually anyway. He's a good guy. He also plays poker. We've played casually, not casually, but I mean we've played poker together a little bit years ago. He's a nice guy. Like him. Power d4 player. So bishop d2. Hexery, welcome. Son of Anarchy. Do you have voting rights in Hungary? I'm not a citizen. I'm a resident. So I guess I don't. But I can work here. I don't think I'd want to have voting rights. It's sort of hopeless. Bishop g2. Going through them quick today. Is poker some kind of code word? No. I mean, I'm a poker player. I spent 5 or 6 years playing poker and instead of chess, and a lot of the chess players, the stronger chess players, I have played. You know, they do play poker. I can think of 7 or 8 strong Hungarian chess players who also play poker seriously, and Horvath Peter was one of them. No, it's not a code word. You're very paranoid. So am I, and it's a good thing, and we need to be that way. But seriously, no. I mean, I'm being quite literal. I talk a lot about poker in my stream. I even mention it in my bio on Twitch, and that was what I was doing for 6 years instead of chess between 2009 and 2015. So it's a big part of my life, and basically I was doing like 80% poker, 20% chess, and now I'm doing like 80% chess and 20% poker. So it's a major flip flop in my life. And when I have a chance to talk about poker, something I usually bring it up. What type of poker? So, well, I play mostly Hold'em tournaments and sit and goes. I also play Pot Limit Omaha, and it's a game I play every week is usually like dealer choice. So anyway, his Ignos was asking me about Horvath Pater. He doesn't play much. He must have a job outside of chess, I guess. I don't know, because he could be like a chess coach, but I kind of had the feeling that he might do something outside of chess. He just doesn't play. He got the GM title, but he doesn't play actively. I think he plays in the Hungarian Team Championship maybe, and that's it. It helps to organize this tournament that's coming up. I want to say where it is, but my memory, loss is kicking in. I heard a song on the radio today, and I couldn't, for the life of me, recall the band. It was from 23 years ago. It was on the radio a lot back in 1993. I could not recall the band. It's not a good sign when my memory starts to go. It's such a weird move. I really want to play Bishop C1 here. It's really, really, really outside the box move. But if, this guy is going to have this bishop really in a weird position on b4, the knight is vulnerable on e4 too. This guy, sorry Sean, you're not just a guy. One player got really offended last week when I called him this guy and started to be rude. No need for that. I mean, I just, sometimes don't have time to even look at the screen, so don't be offended if I call you this guy. Have you had poorer times due to poker? Actually, I had poorer times due to chess. Famous Elon Schwartz quote. I don't know if you guys have heard of Elon Schwartz. He's a professional poker player. He's a FIDE master from Brooklyn, and he basically quit chess to play poker full time. And right before he won the World Series of Poker, fourth place on the final table, I was talking to him online a year before that, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I just I had to quit chess due to perpetual brokenness," and I totally understood, and it later influenced me to start playing poker. So, no, I mean, I usually have poorer times. Ironically, we have poorer times due to chess, and not poorer times due to poker. Most chess players that you meet who play poker are, strategic and very thinking, not like gambler types. So yeah, we had to quit chess due to perpetual brokenness. That was what Elon told me. But I mean, there are lots of stories about people who went broke playing poker, of course. But generally, they're gambler types. Oftentimes, doing other kind of gambling, like sports betting, or just playing casino games, which is very, very dangerous. Okay, so Sean Shah here. This plan of mine kind of worked. I like this. This is very cool. He's got a5, a4 though. I don't know if I want to allow him to play a3, although I could. We have a very good position here. We can just let him play a3 if he wants to, or maybe make an improving move. My knight's coming back to d3 here. We're going to need to make sure d4 is secure. Not that obvious now. Knight a3, kind of outside the box type of move, would block a3 and give me knight c2 maybe. Holding up this a3 idea. But I like that we're playing creatively for a change rather than just routine type of moves. e4 is also pretty reasonable, I would think. But maybe knight c3 is better, and just let him play a3. One thing I hate about the browser is that it occasionally you click on the board and it just freaks out. But okay, so I'm gonna play the natural knight move. Then were the fluctuations in your income inconvenient? No. I had, one of the important things, in my opinion, that is kind of taken for granted is a lot of the most successful poker players had a lot of money to start with. It's obviously like investing. I mean, if you have a big solid bankroll to start with, it's a big advantage. And at the time when I was playing a lot, I had enough money that I wasn't playing, the micro stakes. I didn't need to do that, and I had money, and so I was never like worried about going broke, and it was a big advantage. And it really is. I really don't recommend anybody play poker above like a micro stake level without having a good bankroll. I mean, it's so much easier. You're not like stressing whether you're gonna go broke every day. I mean, it's really hard to play poker if you have a small bankroll. I mean, it's just no. I was fine. I was never worried. So that's a big advantage. And then later, one of the reasons why I stopped is because my bankroll was shrinking. Over not because of losing, but just because of spending money on life and investing in things like a place to live, and so it's just a huge advantage if you play poker and you have money. I mean, you're a huge advantage over players who are just worried about money, and it's not good to play poker. It's good to have a lot of money if you play. It's a massive advantage. You're not worried. You're like fearless. You can be just fearless. I won tournaments where there were big prizes, and I just never even like bothered to offer a deal when we were like down to a few players. I just didn't even consider, I didn't even consider offering a deal with a big prize on the line. And a lot of players would like beg for a deal, and it's just affects the way you play and stuff. Looks like Shanshaw's coming out of this really well now. So he's fine basically. White has a little bit more space, but this a5, a4, a3 worked. He's got e5 in the center. Now I have to play d5, so I have some kind of space advantage, but I think that it's a playable position. Now I'm going to channel my inner Igor Novikov to really, speaking of Boris Gelfand, Novikov, another guy who is a mini Gelfand, you might say, a good Najdorf player. I don't know what happened to Igor Novikov. It's so weird. He sort of dropped off the face of the planet. This guy who won the New York Open, he was like 26 plus FIDE, and he seems to, does anybody know? He lived in the United States for a while. He just seems to have disappeared like in the last 10 years. It's really strange. It was a great theoretician and great positional player. What I want to do against Shansha here, it's kind of tough. Maybe king h1. Prophylactic move. I get positions like this sometimes with black out of the Bogo Indian. Played c6. Not my favorite move for black here, but I guess it's reasonable. Okay, well, I'll just play bishop g1. Kind of the plan to do this Karpovian king h1, bishop g1, and play it like it's a fianchetto Grunfeld, something like that. The bishop's just tucked back here. My king is safe, and I still have the space advantage in the center. Although I think that black has played this pretty well, and I don't think black stands much worse. Is there a correlation between micro and macro stakes? Is stress the only thing that you can take into consideration? Talking about poker here. A correlation. Well, I mean, it's the same game, you know. So, I mean, the big thing is that poker changed when poker sites, online poker sites, made micro stake poker possible, because obviously you have to pay for dealers to deal the cards in a casino, and before the existence of so-called micro stake games, everybody had to play at least kind of like low stakes. And the creation of microstakes made it possible for everybody to learn how to play without necessarily like losing a lot of money in the process. And consequently, a lot of people got better by playing at these microstakes. It's basically the same game. You're just... B5 is interesting here. Kind of complicated. B5, take, D5, take. That's actually okay for me. I'm kind of squeezing Shanshah's queen here. So the difference is not no difference. Yeah, the stress and players are oftentimes more fearful of losing a lot of money, so they play more cautiously at the higher stakes. You know, that's the only real difference. But you know, I think any good player would kind of tell you that they wish that these greedy poker sites had never created the entire concept of playing micro stake poker, because here I want to keep in cramps, so I don't want to trade pieces. Creation of micro stake poker is like the bane of every good poker player. Man, good move. I was threatening knight takes e5 there, and d6 check, which would have crushed black. So he found this knight d7, though he doesn't have a lot of other moves. I guess it was pretty easy to find it. We're still better and we have more time, but how to break through? Now it's no apparent breakthrough. Knight b4 allows knight c5, which is a big problem. And it's hard for black to do anything, but he has knight b6, maybe in some positions. King h8. Rook to the c file. It's a good move. I think that Shanshah heard me like muttering king h8 under my breath, and then played it. e4. Not sure if I want to play e4, what I want to do here. He's basically taken away this idea I had of knight b4 and knight c6 with the king on g8. I could play b6, but then rook a6, hitting my b pawn a third time, and then bishop d8 as well. So I probably can't maintain that pawn. If I play b6, it gets overextended. I need to be just a little bit careful here. Maybe rook c2, trying to double. It's a bit awkward, isn't it? And I have to play fairly quickly now. We're getting really low on time. Okay, now I'm running out of time. Try to simplify a little bit here and highlight the weakness of his knight. I'm not even sure if I'm better. I feel a little overextended in this position. Whoa. So he dropped a piece. Queen takes a5. It looks like he didn't realize that I'm winning material there. I don't think this is an intentional sacrifice. He just kind of made a routine move. The automatic recapture. We're just winning a whole piece. All right, I lulled him to sleep with my long stories about various stuff. What's your opinion on Nimzovich defense? I just discovered it, which seems quite solid. Do you play it, and if not, why? I do play it, and if you've been watching my stream, I had some terrible losses in the Nimzo back in my last tournament, my return tournament. Them terrible losses. Just I did lose. I did lose one game to Sabo Gergo in an F3 Nimzo, and I had another game. Yeah, so I lost Sabo Gergo and wait a minute, blocking out the games I lost. I lost to somebody else. I lost to Erdosh, but that was a Bogo Indian. So yeah, I love the Nimzo, and I've been playing it a lot since maybe I was already a master when I started playing it, but on a regular basis. But I grew up with a friend of mine learning chess when I was maybe, let's say, in high school, between 7th and 12th grade. I started to play chess with a friend of mine who was stronger than me and actually taught me to play. And my friend learned the Nimzo and played it religiously. And I used to play the King's Indian like I am now. But later on, I realized that the King's Indian, it's a very uncompromising opening, and you can't always play for a win every single game with black. It's not that practical, so sometimes you need something a little more correct. The King's Indian gives white a lot of center and a lot of space, and it's not always pleasant to play like that. You're at a spatial disadvantage every single game. So I started to play the Nimzo because I didn't want to play like constantly with less space as I do in this King's Indian. And so the Nimzo, I think, is a good compromise. It's like, it's not as solid as like the Queen's Gambit Accepted, where you actually occupy the center with d5, but you do fight for control of the center directly, against white with knight f6 and bishop b4. You don't neglect the center as you do in the King's Indian. Like, letting white do whatever they want is kind of extreme, and it's actually becoming like a little bit less popular now. You see the top players playing more like classical type of openings. Even Nakamura, for example, plays the Queen's Gambit Declined, not so much the King's Indian. And it's like, I think because computers are showing the way, a lot, that these extremely hyper-modern openings like the King's Indian are really not as correct as something that directly controls the center. But obviously there's a lot of practical benefit to playing such an opening. If I want to beat a weaker player, I can create a very complicated position, even if I'm slightly worse. In the Nimzo, though, no, you're getting more of a classical kind of game, and I think that's a really, really fundamental opening that's playable for players of any level. So, yeah, I love the Nimzo Indian. It's a very important opening. Right, and Nakamura plays the Queen's Gambit Decline, and since he started doing that, I don't know, a while he's been doing it, for years now, it's almost like he had something to prove. Like, everybody said, oh, you're just good tactically, and you only can like trick people with tactics. I had the feeling that Naka kind of had a chip on his shoulder, like he wanted to prove that he can play, like a really classical positional player. So that's kind of one of the reasons why he likes playing openings that seem not to suit his style. He wants to kind of prove that he can play any way he wants. He's not just a tactician. So I feel like Hikaru had something to prove. Now it's getting a little bit like exaggerated to the point where I think that he's not doing the most practical thing. He should be playing things like the King's Indian. Even though he had a bad loss to Kramnik or whoever, sometimes you have a bad loss, you go back but definitely Hikaru should continue to play dynamic openings. I don't think that playing the black side of the Queen's Gambit Declined is ideal for a player like Nakamura. I don't think that he's using his skills to the best of his ability. He could benefit by playing a sharper opening. So he's gone a little bit too far to prove a point, I think, and maybe costing himself some rating points in the process. Alright, so this is actually a variation I've played a lot against Lonely Master. It's pretty weird stuff, this variation. I had some games with the Serbian Grandmaster Zlatko Alincic, who's a very, very correct type of player. And Lonely Master seems to... some kind of analysis here with A4. But A4, I did see somebody play that against me not that long ago. It's a pretty new move, probably, because I don't recall seeing this in my analysis like maybe 10 years ago. So I think the last time I was playing this opening in tournaments was probably around like 2008. And, okay, 8 years ago, what have you. A4 he played instantly, like it's just known theory. And I can recall maybe one blitz game having faced this move. Most players with white probably played more quietly. Big decision, like to play pawn takes pawn or b4 here is very fundamental. b4, knight b5, queen b6, and I've got bishop b7. The position could be very, very sharp. And I feel like I've walked into some kind of preparation here. If I take on a4, what is white doing there? Take on a4, knight e5, like an in-between move. I'm a little bit worried about that. B takes a, knight e5, bishop b7, rook takes a4, intermezzo, queen b6, and now knight c4 hitting my queen again. When I have like queen c7, apparently I might be okay there. And then knight b5. This is a revolving door of tactical tricks. Knight b5, queen d7, knight b6. I don't know. But b4 looked problematic to me. If I can take this and simplify, it's a little safer. e4 knight to c6 is a Nimzovich defense, not the Nimzo Indian. Indian defenses, by definition, are d4 knight f6. Everything that follows d4 knight f6 is an Indian defense. And they used to call it, I think they even called it the East Indian defense in the old days. But we'll have to call Edward Winter for the confirmation. B takes a4. I don't know, Lonely Master just insta-played like rook. He insta-played a4. And now he's like thinking, which is weird. It's kind of weird. I mean, white has, like, black has two moves in that position, take or b4, you know, and so, I mean, bishop d7 doesn't look good because of the long diagonal. So it's weird that he would like instantly play a4 and then start thinking. Of course, there's a lot of explanations. He could be like disconnected or had to go to the bathroom. Just I'm surprised. I was waiting for him to reel off some kind of prepared variation here. But computers have revitalized opening theory. I mean, a4 may be a move that's only been discovered like in the last 5 or 6 years in a relatively early point in a kind of forced variation. Maybe this is just known, and my being out of practice has cost me. I do recall facing it once in a blitz game, probably on the Internet Chess Club, because I don't remember it facing it here. It was a while ago, maybe last year or 2 years ago. And I think I got outplayed pretty badly. It's a risky line for black to play b5, obviously. I mean, opening the long diagonal with a bishop on g2 is kind of going against principles, but black needs to get some counterplay. b5 breaks up the c4 pawn, kind of attacks white's center in a way. So it has some justification. And it's also to counter the powerful bishop on g2. I also like to do this in English. In symmetrical English, I like to be able to try to play to counter the bishop on g2 with plans like queen d7 and bishop b7, Larsen style defense against the English opening. You were talking e4 knight c6, d4. Yeah, this kind of Nimzovich defense. So am I getting this right? Maybe the guy was asking about the Nimzovich defense instead of the Nimzo-Indian. If you're talking about the Nimzovich defense, that's a whole different kettle of fish, as they say. Nimzovich defense, like e4 knight c6, is a completely different opening. Okay, so bishop a3. Trying to play rook b4, it looks like. So we have... They're definitely pounding on something downstairs. Explaining the 4 a.m. story. Rook b4 now. Mr. Lonely Master is looking for this kind of stuff. I could simply play knight c6. a5 weakens my structure a bit. Bishop b7 walks into rook b4. So knight a6, not our favorite square, but might not be a bad move. Knight a6, knight d2, bishop b7, knight c4, queen c7, knight b5, queen d7. I guess I can play this. I kind of hate having my knight on the side of the board, but that's life, I guess. He's got his pieces in a really weird place on a4 and a3, so maybe I need to do the same thing. a5 is kind of weakening, doesn't develop the pieces. Bishop b7 ignores the threat of rook b4. I feel like a6 is kind of, knight a6 is something of a compromise. Not ideal development, but some development, and stopping concretely rook b4. And looking at the tactical things, I don't see anything clear for him. You also have to keep in mind that I could sack the exchange at any moment with something like knight e5, pawn takes knight, bishop takes a8, and pawn takes d4. This idea has existed in this variation since the beginning of time, basically. I remember in the 80s, he's hanging b3, but not sure I want to take that pawn. In the 80s, bishop takes g2. There was... Okay, I'm not understanding this. Not understanding this. Confused. A Lonely Master overlooked queen b7 or something. In the 80s, there were already variations where black would sack the exchange in this line. It's called the Kavalek system after Lubash Kavalek, who actually still is around for all things writing for the Huffington Post chess column. But he was a great player. I mean, he was Slovak GM who moved to the United States. Anyway, so Kavalek helped to establish the system along with other players like Andy Soltis, King's Indian, and sacking the exchange, and what I was trying to say anyway was kind of like sacking the exchange for black is sort of second nature in this kind of variation. So we've got the upper hand now. I mean, we won a pawn. We've got the bishop pair. Lonely Master's king side is totally ruined. So it worked out, but I was a little scared. It was touch and go there. I mean, I didn't like rook a4 and all these tactics I had to calculate. So I guess he was just kind of making it up as he went along. But we've still got to be careful. He's still in the game here. Somewhat coordinated. Probably missed a chance to play queen h3 on the previous move, which would have been much stronger than bishop b7. If you look here, I definitely could have played it. I was just kind of like, oh, I'll play it whenever I want. Okay, e4. And I don't have anything like really concrete now. Maybe h4 attacking at some point. Wow, he's playing e5. e5 is a very dangerous move. Even knight g4 is possible. To open the long diagonal, almost suicidal for white. Basically bordering on suicidal. Queen f5, queen e6. This move is justified tactically, but maybe I shouldn't trade pieces here. I just don't really know what to do. In time pressure. We have got better game. He has isolated pawn on d4, down a pawn. I have two bishops, a very powerful white square bishop that's unopposed. So I feel like black should be winning, but it's not. This is also hanging, but I have the knight on c3 hanging, and I'm threatening to penetrate to the 7th rank, which is extremely dangerous for white. So black still, he's got one good thing, that knight. The knight is saving him. Actually, this knight on e5 was a really good piece. Now, I'm not sure what to do here. Knight d5 is not possible. So he's got some counterplay. This move. Losing my pawn back, it looks like. This is a blitz move. Not happy here. I lost most of my advantage. I'm going to drop a piece if I do that. That's a good move. That's a good idea. All right. So Lonely Master seems like he's quite dangerous positionally. Now he's actually better. Lonely Master, you're not a title player, are you? Because you remind me of somebody else I played recently from Brazil online. Reminds me of an international master I played. It's very positional style with the knights. And I totally fouled this up. But now we're back in the game again. So we both made a lot of really strange errors in this game. Lonely Master loves closed positions. Let's see. So annoying to be tied down here. Let's not be tied down anymore. We can probably hold, but I don't think I'm going to be able to win this. It looks like a draw. It just looks like a draw, I guess. Pretty much. Maybe I made a mistake there. I mean, I should eliminate this pawn. We had an Opscular Bishop game before, actually. Ironically. He's playing for a win here. Okay. That's interesting. He likes to play for wins in Opscular Bishop endings. Kind of his favorite thing. Must be a bullet player. Kind of hard to see how white would win this position. But some people just like to do this because they can. But I wouldn't do it against a streamer, like moving the pieces back and forth kind of thing. But we'll do it. Yes, you're going to win that pawn. This is interesting. This is a pretty mistake-filled game. I had a huge advantage. Then he was probably almost winning. Now it's a draw. So, okay, it wasn't the best quality. Mostly because of time pressure. Alright. Sparkle Horse Theoretical Battle. This is a guy or person who we don't really know much about, other than that they're pretty competent. Do you analyze your games with Stockfish? Strinity says, yeah, when I'm here on Lee Chess, I use the Stockfish in the browser. It's not like the best chess engine. When I'm analyzing like tournament games in a chess base, I would use a stronger engine, but for general purposes, like here analyzing games online, the Stockfish is okay. I mean, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it too much, I mean, there are certain bugs in the... Oh, this variation, I hate this. Chom István did this against me, a Hungarian team championship. I shouldn't allow this line. It's actually, I'm getting transposed into a Peertz reversed. Very solid choice by Black. I should have played a different move order. So anyway... I didn't even like to play this in simuls. I used to play the Peertz, but these kind of fianchetto variations are very, very unpleasant. So anyway, to answer the question though, the Stockfish, it's competent, it's decent. It's not the best engine that you can get, but for purposes of analyzing general games here and blunder checking, it's good. But don't take it too seriously, and don't take the game analysis feature where it spits out an analysis of the entire game. In like a minute too seriously. There will be errors. It might evaluate sometimes major things because you're only letting it analyze for like a minute or two. The chess engine still needs probably 5, even 10 minutes to analyze some positions, so it's not perfect by any means. But I would choose maybe a stronger engine for analyzing my tournament games. H6. So what do we do? I mean, this is basically like a King's Indian attack where Black has played no c5, so it's like a kind of Peertz with colors reversed. Rook E1. Strong point. Don't know anything about theoretical battle. They don't really talk. They'll say hi, good game, but as I was saying in the stream last week, it's nice when we have players who, like, you know, tell us who they are. We know a little bit background. We have like a community kind of in the stream, and I don't mind playing with guys like Theoretical Battle and WGM, Angelina or whatever, but it's kind of nice when we really know who people are. I don't really enjoy playing with the anonymous accounts as much. But a lot of people are very secretive about their online chess identity. Sean Shaw is watching. Sean Shaw has like 3 alt accounts. He logged on with like... he is Theoretical Battle and WGM Alexandra, excuse me. He has 3 accounts simultaneously. I'm just kidding, Sean Shaw. But they are kind of around the same strength as Sean Shaw. That's why I was like... The WGM might be even stronger. She's, she or he. I suspect it's a he, because if it was a she, you know, I don't think they would go out of their way to, like, you know, people who are females in online chess tend to get kind of harassed by the males. I don't think you'd go out of your way to advertise the fact that you were a woman chess player if you were a woman chess player online. So I have my suspicions about WGM Alexandra. I'm just speculating, but I think it's more likely that it's a guy than a female. Again, because in my experience, women just don't like, you know, male people like harassing them online and trying to talk to them constantly and stuff like that. So I think it's more likely. Anyway, pure speculation. Pawn takes d5. I decided to play it, you know, give up the center. Kind of classical. It's actually a kind of known Peart's line now with colors reversed. So there are pretty sharp variations, if I recall correctly. Crazy stuff where white can even do like rook e4, rook h4 in some lines of the Peart's fianchetto. I lost a really bad game to Bui Vinh, Vietnamese GM, back in like 2009, where, maybe earlier, maybe 2007, 2008, where I got tricked into playing the black side of the Peart's fianchetto variation. Somehow I kind of let him trick me into playing an opening I don't normally play. I did play the Peart's briefly when I was lower rated, but I never really played it as a master, and so Bui Vinh just annihilated me positionally in a really nice game, and I still reeling from that, kind of reeling from that loss. I don't like playing the Peart's defense fianchetto with this giving up the center too much. It's not as good as the King's Indian, because black, you know, hasn't played c5. They haven't weakened themselves quite as much as in those lines. But I do have a general idea of what to do here. So it has similarities with the King's Indian, but it's not quite as good as the King's Indian. Hissidnut said this: if many people have many accounts, they can play more games with you, which is unfair for other people. Hissidnuts, of course, man, I know. But I can't stop it. I mean, it's definitely happened before, that there was at least a few occasions when it looked like these accounts would log on, like 2 at the same time, and people would create. Yeah, I mean, how can we stop it, though? That's the question. How to police that kind of thing from happening? Have to talk to Thibault and the administrators and programmers here to try to figure out how we can stop them. But I'm just joking about Sean Shaw. I like to tease him because he was not here for a while. I don't think it's really him. But when he was disappeared, I was starting to wonder, maybe he's one of those other guys, one of those other new accounts. A5, that's a normal restricting move. All right. So we try to get black to soften up the position a little bit, and if I play rook e4, if black plays b5, what would happen? Is my rook going to be in danger? I'm just trying to recall. I think I have to play like a4, but I don't really want to. If I play a4, then this b4 square kind of becomes an outpost for black. And I'll never be able to play c3. So that's very awkward. You'd like to secure the outpost on c4, but if you play a4, sometimes the knight can just go and sit here. I did play this kind of line for a while with white against the Pirts. It's a good line, actually, the fianchetto variation. And if I don't recall incorrectly, I'm thinking of one player. I can't remember. I'm telling you, I'm getting like Alzheimer's at a very early age because I'm not recalling certain players. But I'm trying to remember. There was a Pirts expert player, Grandmaster. I can't get the name right now, who actually played the fianchetto variation against his own opening. He was in America. He looks like a mafioso. He's a good player. He kind of reminded me of like a movie mafioso. His name starts with a Z. Zajcik, that's it. This guy Zajcik. He's kind of inactive. I don't know what happened to him, but I think he lived in the United States, in Pennsylvania or something in the 90s. He used to play like the G3 variation against the Pirts, maybe? But that doesn't make sense though, because he definitely played e4 too. Or maybe I'm confusing him with someone else. I'm rambling now, but the fianchetto variation against the Pirts seems pretty effective, and I think better than it is like against the King's Indian. You make it harder by not playing unrated accounts, or those which are less than 1 month old, for example. Yeah, we could do something like that. But these are like regulars now. These players are... Yeah, we could come up with some kind of... that's a good suggestion. We could come up with some kind of criteria for deciding whether or not we can play with certain players. F6 is... We already stopped the rated games because it was getting really too difficult. F6 is a very kind of weakening move. I don't think it's really ideal for black. Probably they should not do that. Although it's killing my plan of rook e4, rook h4. I think rook e4, rook h4 is off the table now, with black being able to play like g5. We'll have to revert to a different kind of plan. So, what is that plan? Maybe a practical move like knight e3, h4. c3 has its drawbacks, although we do have the bishop on d2 to stop knight b4 sacrifices. So I'm thinking maybe c3, bishop f5, queen c2 isn't so bad. Although, how am I going to protect that if they play knight moves? I don't want to play bishop f1, although you can. I need a plan, so kind of weakening the center pawn. It's standard situation though, and this doesn't look really optimal for black. Played this quickly. Queen c2 or bishop f1, both are playable here. Not that worried about this pawn. Could even play d4, but I don't really like it. If queen c2, knight b6, looks like kind of a problem. I'm going to play this first. You have to do this sometimes. This is not really a stable position for the bishop on f5. A lot of the games are Sirwan Pirts expert. Is Saruman a Peertz expert? I don't think so. Saruman plays the Caro-Kann and the French. He's not a Peertz expert. He's like Mr. Solid. Well, we're going to have to defend this. I mean, obviously. But maybe rook d1, and that's a move I want to think about, because sometimes bishop g4 could be annoying here with the bishop on f1. This pawn is a classic part of chess theory, the backward pawn in the King's Indian type position. It's really important that black, or in my case with colors reversed, white, find active ways to defend the static weakness. Black's position is not optimal. This is a very passive kind of setup with f6 and knight e7. You know, he'd like to have like rook d8, queen d7, bishop on f7, maybe f5. It's not that easy. Okay, so g5. Wow. Really interesting. About piece sacrifices with like h4 and takes on g5 or something. It's kind of interesting. Wow. This is super bizarre. I guess I have to do it. There's some complicated tactics here. Queen gets trapped. Yes, I give a piece back. Not to be trapped. Theoretical battle playing. Not really sophisticated knowledge of the opening, but good sense of general attacking the weakness. Trying to get some tactics going. What do I do here? Take on b4. Yeah, we've got a lot of play, I would think. So material is equal. Black has to take back with a pawn, which is kind of a disaster there. So they're probably in some trouble here. Not losing material, maybe a pawn, but we have dangerous, very dangerous outside passed pawns on the queen side and the bishop pair. I think white's clearly better. So just a kind of bailout black had to do to save the queen there. Now these bishops and these pawns should be pretty problematic for black. Play c5. Now, there's always it is a little tough for me to make progress, arguably. I could play b4, but I don't see exactly how that's going to break out. I'm just slowly trying to improve my position. Although maybe rook b8 is going to be a problem here. I do have to play something more active. Looks like he's got some counterplay. The rook b8. How can I do this? Maybe I should do this. b4. Jeez. I'm not sure. This is pretty dicey, actually. Black's hanging on. Very good kind of resourceful rebound for black. They just got completely, almost completely trapped with this idea of trapping their queen. And why that? Wow, so you just take and you're better. Terrible mistake by black there. You must take on b4. It's a good position, I think. It was a good position. Not really sure. We're better here now. Yeah, we have this check. Good defense. We're up a pawn, bishop pair, and we can't do anything. Really powerful bishop pair for white. This should be winning. A terrible mistake for black not to take on b4, when I thought I was worse, honestly. And then this move. We have mating attack down the h-file. Look at that. It sees the threat and stops that and attacks my pawn there. Wow. And then this move. An amazing move. Wow. You found that with so little time left. That is just an incredible defensive resource right there. 97. Wow. I'm almost losing on time. Theoretical battle is like defending like an absolute genius. Man, you are tough. I mean, very, very fast and resourceful in a difficult position. I could have easily lost instead of winning. WGM Alexandra, another player who's very mysterious, as we mentioned. E4 instead of G5. Siron plays the Pierce Modern 2. Okay, well, maybe. Sure, he's experimented with different stuff. I don't think it's something he would play too much, like in a really critical game. He may have played it against like weaker players. Mostly he was known for his solid defenses. I know that he did a video on the Accelerated Dragon I saw, like, for the St. Louis Chess Center, but Yasser is not really known for playing the Accelerated Dragon, for example. He's obviously capable of playing the Sicilian, since he played the English so much with white. He's practically an expert on any kind of Sicilian structure. So King's Indian attack, sort of like, you don't know what to expect from WGM Alexandra. At first it played like heavy duty theory against me in a Richter Rouser. It knew all theory. And now it's playing like King's Indian attack with white. That's quite, I think it might have even played D4 against me one game. It can kind of play anything. Against this particular move order, we've got both sides of the King's Indian attack now. This particular move order, I don't know, E6 or D6 or E5. You might as well just play E5. Because if I play e6 and white plays c3, I'm going to end up playing e5 with tempo down. I don't really like playing the black side of the Botvinnik system against the English, so here at least white is committed to playing e4. If they had played like a different move order, not played e4 so early, I wouldn't want to play against c4 personally so much. Sirwan's main defense to e4 is like the Caro-Kann. I mean, he was legendary for playing the Caro-Kann and contributed a lot to the theory of the Caro-Kann. And he plays the French too. And those openings are kind of similar, obviously, you know, structurally, stylistically. Knight on g to e7. One of the world's leading experts, you might say, in the Caro-Kann. Knight a3, and this I don't know. You know, it's like I had somebody else play the exact same line against me recently. So again, really mysterious player. We'll have to find out who I played this position with recently. Maybe it was Royal Python. I think it might have been Royal Python. Possible Alexander actually searched my games and found a weak point in my armor. I don't think so. Anybody would go to that much trouble here. Now white's trying to play d4. And I think against Royal Python I played d5. If I remember correctly. I think that's who it was. d5 seems like you've got to do that now. And I haven't wasted time with d6. So if I had played d6 already, I would be screwed. I mean, d5 would be illogical. Now, although this seems logical for white, I don't really understand what the idea is with e4. You know, I mean, what structurally it looks bad, like you're allowing me to play e4 here. But I guess it's just some kind of, maybe it's some kind of known variation. That would be my fear. I mean, allowing this pawn push strategically looks normally good for black. So I think this could be a known line. The other possibility is that white's just kind of making up stuff as they go along here. We probably have to play f5, and white can play f3, but it's very double-edged. I mean, white has less kingside pawns than black does. So when you break the head of the pawn chain with f3, it's not only risky for me, I mean, it's risky for your king too. Maybe forced, though. Because if white doesn't do that, I mean, how are they going to like free their position? And so maybe this is probably some relatively obscure opening theory. Although black shouldn't have any major difficulties, I would think. Black should be at least equal. Played it. There is e3, kind of a weird move. Threatening to win a piece, though. So I mean, this move obviously requires some calculation. If e3, the knight is hanging on g5, and if bishop takes e3, you're losing a piece. If knight takes e3, bishop takes d4, skewers the pieces. White has some bizarre queen b3 type of in-between move that I'm not sure is good. It's very complicated. e3. And then what happens if knight h3, for example? Rook e8. And white just moves so quickly. They don't even care about trying to play the best move. It's just like intuitive, quick moves. It's like, obviously this looks dangerous for white, but they just blitzed it out with, you know, using less than a minute so far. I just prefer to sit and think and try to understand what's really going on rather than just trying to win on time or something. I mean, I want to try to play the best move. E3 is interesting. Does the pawn get overextended? I mean, let's try. Actually, white has f4 there. That's another possibility. Alright, I'm going to play pawn takes pawn. This is arguably a safer move. I'm not sure about e3. Only the computer will know. I've said this before, guys. It's what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say. So an insta move again. We got 4 possible recaptures, and Alexandra insta queen takes f3. Seems like her main weapon is moving fast. His or her. We could play knight e7. That takes pressure off of d4 though, so I think I'm going to have to just make the most solid move. Oh, we blundered this tactic. That's why it wants to do that. There's a mosquito in here. Oh my god. There's a mosquito in my room again. It was like last night the same thing. I blundered this tactic here. So that's the trick. It's a tactical trick with queen f3, queen b3. I didn't see it. Logical. Looks like white's just winning. Weird. Weird kind of prepared variation. Probably not even good for white though. As I said, I could have played e3. After e takes f3, queen takes f3, I guess I have to play something more solid. Knight e7. But it looks weird. It looks almost like prepared for white. Yeah. Knight takes d4. My only weakness is making commentary during the games. Yeah, that's why I'm asked for unrated games, obviously. So we're like just lost. We fell into this trap. Queen b3 and queen knight f7 check. I didn't see queen b3 at all. After that, I kind of expected a different move. I don't know why. Instead of the capture on f3. So this player is winning for the first time against me. Although all the games were very, very tough. All 5, I managed to win a couple games kind of on time. So here we're down the exchange for a pawn. It's real bad though. We don't have any concrete compensation. So it looks like we're going to go down in flames here. The queen is very powerful. What can I do here? My king is vulnerable too. So I really have to develop a piece. I don't have time to worry about my b7 pawn. I'm just going to be down the exchange. Maybe try to kick the queen out of the active position on f7. But I'm very, very disappointed that this game was an abomination. I guess I should have played e3, which may cast doubt on white's setup, but I didn't have enough time. White was blitzing. I just didn't really have time to figure out that. Complicated after e3, f4. I have my doubts about white's position strategically. I don't think it's really correct, but obviously it's very trappy, and I fell for one of them. Don't give up. Yeah, I generally don't give up, but this player seems very, very fast and out to get me. suddenly using a lot of time here. Why, now that you're just clearly better, would you start using a lot of time? Kind of odd. It's probably lost for black with perfect play by white. Without a doubt. Queen b3. Kind of strange. Okay. We need to try to get some counterplay. Knight g4. Doesn't really do anything after, say, h3. Maybe knight e4. That allows queen takes b7. But I kind of like blocking this bishop's diagonal. Rather than knight g4, the knight on e4 is a little more powerful. It's a little more flexibly placed. And whatnot. Queen e3 is a nice resource. I'm almost losing a piece now. Rook d1 is a really weird move. Alright, maybe we sack the queen now. We could sack our queen, but I think that black has legitimate fortress chances. I'm not sure if it's necessary to sack my queen. Big Lar would probably want to sack his queen here just for fun. Although it's arguably interesting. I mean, I really don't know, what's wrong with sacking my queen here. I have what? Bishop and knight and pawn for a queen. I have bishop and knight and pawn for a queen. It's a little bit fancy, but I don't know how white's going to break this fortress and my threats on the diagonals, honestly. It's pretty difficult. I have all sorts of forks. My pieces are very well coordinated, and the Larry Christensen inspired queen sacrifice looks legitimately awkward for white. Not really enough material, but if you think in terms of coordination, then maybe black has enough. Awkward situation. I mean, I could have just made a solid move, and I think white's mistake was letting me solidify with bishop c6. If they had taken the b7 pawn, they would have been winning. But it's like a fortress. I could have simply played queen d7. Looks like a difficult position for white to win. After bishop d4, queen d7, takes g7, queen takes g7. Black has real fortress chances now, and before not so. I mean, don't understand why white didn't play on queen takes b7. Yeah, I just don't see any great move for white. I mean, it's a very awkward position. I'm not sure that black is better, but we have 7 points of material for 9. Like 2 pawns down. If you use the old system that bishops are worth 3.5 pawns, maybe we're only down 1.5 points of material, but I like the old books from the early part of the 20th century. I have one old chess handbook that actually has that written, The bishop is worth 3.5 pawns. Knight d2 is a threat, maybe, some positions. There are a lot of potential threats for black. Larry likes to sacrifice, you know, queens and stuff. We borrowed this from him. Well, bishop f3 is a nice move. I mean, that really gives black some chances to save himself. Be g5 here. Guess we go for it with g5. Wow. And now take. What's the deal with this? My idea was knight f2 check, bishop g2, knight f2, and white just is like lost. We can play it now, but it's a little bit unclear here. The important thing is that my bishop on d4 is hanging, so I might have to play bishop b6, but it looks okay actually. Let's give my king an extra square there. Wow, h3. Wow. Okay, it's harder for white to play than black. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not lost for white, but it's just really a difficult position to play. Geese is one of our regulars lately. He you played in the simul last night, right? I don't recall our game now. My senility is kicking in, so bishop's move just one square at a time. Yeah, it's like Karpov. Coordination. But we're very lucky. We played a terrible oversight of queen b3 check. We're just lucky not to lose. I've been playing a lot of e4, but I want to mix it up sometimes, not become too robotic. So sometimes we're going to switch back to d4 and c4. Guys, I'm streaming till 12:30 Central European time, so we have about half an hour left. If you'd like to play, we probably don't have time for more than the current game and like 2 more at the most. I think Hissidnunz is next. And maybe 1 more game after that. Alright, let's play our old standard setup. So I wanted to thank, we have a donor from one of our old friends here on Lee Chess, Alexander. He donated to the stream and my PayPal donation button. I really appreciate it, Alexander. I want to thank him for doing that. So all you guys who have supported the stream, it really makes a difference. Yesterday we had a computer blue screen shut down at the end of my simul stream, so I think one thing I'm going to be investing in is like a tune-up of this machine because it's getting kind of overheated. I was using the computer all day yesterday, and more than usual, I think it just kind of overheated. So maybe not, though. I have to have it tuned up. So we're going to be forking out some bucks for a PC tune-up, along with a new mouse. And you can also check out my chess videos, video chess training on YouTube. This week I'm going to be putting up a new video. We also try to upload the streams. I don't think I got the simul. We'll try to get the simul up on the YouTube channel. Knight 91 though. I play usually b4. So this is kind of mainline King's Indian. I've tried almost every system possible for white in the King's Indian, and this is one of the best. But you have to like closed positions where it's kind of a race on both sides of the board. If you play this kind of line, the blue screen of death. Yeah, I've got a suspicion it's the CPU temp maybe, but I mean that's kind of weird, you know. I mean, I thought that the blue screen of death is not necessarily computer, you know, CPU temp related, but it's really hot. It's running really hot, and I think there's a significant chance that that's what it was. B6, and I can play C5 here. I may have done this. Once against Shah and Shah, we had a similar game. But this gambit idea, B6 is really not a good move in general. A lot of players play A5, and it's funny, like, in the first years of the existence of this variation with B4, I think Suden talks about my favorite book, Modern Chess Opening Theory. He's very, like, dogmatic, and he says that A5 is bad and Knight H5 is good because, you know, you're playing on your side of the board. But modern chess theory is a little more open-minded, and I mean, real, like, contemporary modern opening chess theory itself is more open-minded, and it's not clear that A5 is necessarily bad and Knight H5 is necessarily good. But B6 is definitely, like, weakening and creating weakness at C6, so I wouldn't go there. Definitely not B6. Trinity says the BSOD is mostly bad memory. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm kind of hoping it was just needed to be cleaned, but possible we have to take more serious measures. So, I mean, C5 is just a good positional break for white, and I'll probably regain the pawn fairly easily with something like bishop E3. But even if I didn't, it wouldn't really matter. That pawn is not going anywhere. There's also a question if you take on C5, if this pawn doesn't become a problem too. Whoa. Wow, C6. How can you do that? I don't think we're going to find this in the database, kids. Definitely a novelty. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you will find C6 here. And probably been played. But B6 and C6, you're like going against every fundamental possible thing here. How can that be okay? Wow. Can black really get away with that? That looks insane, to weaken these squares so much. And how can he do that? It's so impossible that there's not something for white here. So what are our options? Taking on C6 and trying to create like a protected pass pawn with D takes C and B5. That's pretty tempting. If I take here, with the idea of protecting the pawn with B5. All right, let's think concretely. If we take on C6 and black takes back with a knight, we can play B5 and then C6. However, if we go a little further, we might have to watch out for black playing like A6, and we can't play A4 because A takes B, rook takes A1, and we hang a rook on A1. So it's kind of tricky. If I take on C6 and play B5 and C6, I may not be able to support the pawn chain with A4, and ironically that could be really important. So we start looking for other possibilities, but it's not that obvious. I mean, taking on D6 is the most forcing move. Queen takes D6, and then what? then what do? Pawn takes c6. What am I gaining here? Am I really even better after takes d6, queen takes d6, takes c6? Black can just trade queens and play knight takes c6, hitting my b4 pawn, and I don't see I really even have anything. It's really bizarre. And he's blowing up my d6, my d5 pawn. If he takes on c5, we play d6 and win a piece. That's an interesting kind of tactical issue here. So what if I did bishop c4, cold-blooded, like overprotection of d5? Bishop c4, pawn takes pawn, d5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes c5. This move. What about bishop c4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4? Pawn takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5. Something like that. Still, I don't know what to do. This is so bizarre. I'm going to go with it because I'm running out of time, but I don't know. I don't know if this is best or not. Bishop c4 just overprotecting d5. Not what I would have expected. My reaction would have been if you had shown me this position 10 minutes ago. But kind of odd. That white, I can't seem to find anything better than overprotecting this pawn. Donation question above. Hey everybody, I have a question. Is it possible to make a donation versus is it possible to donate per pay safeguard, and how to do? That's a good question. But I don't know. I have to find out. A lot of people use pay safeguard. I know also for poker online. I know friends who use pay safeguard to load money in their accounts. I'm using right now just the PayPal and the GoFundMe. Kind of shifting to the PayPal for donations because GoFundMe isn't that great. But I don't know. We'll have to find out. I've never used the PaySafe cards, but I do know that they're very very commonly used, especially in Europe. Galois is why did I quit smoking? I used to like to smoke Galois, but I shouldn't promote smoking here on the stream. I quit 10 years ago. Yeah, so I don't know about that. I'll have to look it up and post some info about the PaySafe card because I don't know. I appreciate though the interest in donating, and I will look into the PaySafe card thing. Now, question is, do we do d6 and try to win a piece here? Does black get like a bazillion pawns after d6? Pawn takes b4, pawn takes e7, queen takes e7. Black has 800 pawns. I think we're not going to go there, so we're going to take on c5. I don't want to see this take on b4, and he gets like 4 pawns for a piece. My whole center like dissolves. This way, I guess I might not be able to trap his knight always, but I think this positionally seems okay. I'll have to check out about the PaySafe cal. According to Google, it's possible to use PaySafe card on PayPal. Okay, I didn't know. I've never used the PaySafe cards, but as I said, I do have friends who use them, but not for PayPal. Appreciate you looking into that for us. Hisitness. If I wasn't in the middle of the game, I would look it up myself. But do appreciate it. We're gonna get a new mouse and get this computer checked out because I don't want any more blue screens in the last 15 minutes of my stream. But yesterday I had a really long day. I was working with Camtasia, which is very like intensive program. It hogs a lot of power. from the CPU and stuff, and it seems to overstress my computer. Alright, so pawn takes pawn. What an interesting line. And Geese just gets away with this. He just gets away with it. Winning a pawn. I don't care about the pawn so much. But he's not losing a piece. Okay, I have a strong passed pawn on d5. Taking on e5 is a good question. I wouldn't mind taking it. I have to be careful about counterplay. Knight takes d5, for example. Knight takes e5, knight takes d5. It's really tricky. You're going to get the material back with bishop takes e5. There's also e4 opening up the diagonal for the bishop on the long diagonal. So, looks like black has good chances. I mean, he really got out of this with a crazy b6, c6, and I don't know what to do. Knight takes e5 is okay. I probably have a reasonable position, but I don't think I'm better here. And I kind of running out of time. I could have made another move, but I'm just being practical now. Reduced to kind of playing the first move I find. 4-2 at Folier. Been playing chess like a total noob these past 5 days. I need to take a break. Yeah. Do masters get like that? Absolutely, man. I mean, plus I'm doing chess now almost like 7 days a week, and it can be too much. I think for everything you do, you need to take a break. Instead of like playing, for example, if you're stressed, not stressed, but like tired out, you know, kind of burned out from chess, instead of playing, I would recommend like watching some videos or, you know, studying a book. Do something that's not as intensive, maybe, if you still want to focus on chess. But if you find yourself playing and hanging pieces, it's time to take a break. I mean, if you're just making blunders, then it's better, you know, to step away. Didn't take on d5. Okay. Well, that's fine by me. We're going to play rook e1, guard our guy on e5, and get this rook in the game. Give the bishop a retreat square back to f1. Black might do a Grunfeld-type blockade plan with knight d6, and I may want to preserve my bishop. So bishop f1 is a reasonable square to have access to. Another game that's, I'm afraid, just going to kind of like degenerate into a random blitzing. Okay, knight d7 now. A little passive. We like to see that passivity. However, we need to do something. Knight c6, queen h4 is an active move for black, and I'm not real happy about it. I have rook e4 there though. Maybe that's good for me. Am I analyzing enough here? Knight c6, yeah. All right. My intention was to play f4 originally, which is okay. But this is a bit more active. He doesn't have queen a5. But I'm not sold on the fact that white is better here. Queen c7 is problematic because you do give me knight b5. And I think that's probably a move I might want to throw in there. I'm not sure though. We have limited time. Rook b1 hangs a piece. We have knight b5, queen b6. Well, at the very least I can play it and follow up with rook b1. Queen doesn't have too many squares. We could actually sack the exchange here. I think it's probably a good idea. This bishop is really a key defensive piece. So I could play something like bishop f4, bishop takes a1, queen takes a1, and you know, there's some queen traps, but mostly I'm just kind of banking on my passed pawn and the weakness of his king side to compensate for the loss of material. It's not necessary. I could play just rook b1. Maybe it's a little more sane. Rather than going to wild complications when I'm in time pressure, try to play a solid move. Though it was tempting to play this, sack the exchange. I think black has, or white has, full compensation. He's just like kind of lost on time. But the game is unclear. Alright guys, last game against Hisset Nuns today. And we haven't played in a long time. Hisset Nuns is over 2,200. Remember, he was in the 2,100s, I think, the last time I played him. I might be mistaken. I meant to, where do I click to donate on my account? You guys are too kind. But hopefully I can repay you by helping you improve your chess. That's the point. Alright, Hisset Nuns we haven't played in a long time. I don't think he was watching when I was streaming from the US. I've seen him once or twice since I got back. For those of you that don't watch regularly, I do spend like mostly July and August abroad in the United States, visiting home, and then come back to stream. If we continue, that'll probably be the same schedule next year. And hopefully we do continue. And it helps if you guys support the stream. It's awesome if anybody donates. As I said, Alexander, Hisset Nuns has supported the stream before too. We have a number of people who have helped us, so really appreciate it. Knight f3, I want to try something here, c5. I've been playing a lot of Bogo Indians. I also play the Queen's Indian. I don't really play the Queen's Gambit Declined. But c5 is my most dynamic move I can play in this position. And I do play the Blumenfeld. So I don't recall, you know, if I played this with Hisset Nuns. It's unlikely that I don't play the Blumenfeld that often. So it's unlikely we've played this opening before. Why do you always quit when 2 games or so when I get on? Because you're getting on too late. No, we have a set schedule, 10 to 12:30 on weekdays. That's really kind of, I get kind of burned out after 2.5 hours. So that's kind of my breaking point for getting tired and kind of needing to eat lunch and stuff like that. Bishop g5 is the main line. You can also take on b5, which is like the Blumenfeld. Actually, it would be like pawn takes e6 first in this position. Taking on e6 and then taking on b5. Bishop g5 is kind of main line, and I never played this opening historically, but about 10 years ago I met Grandmaster Svitan in Slovenia and at a tournament, and he recommended this setup for black, and it's really worked pretty well for me. There was a period when it became a little bit trendy. But you have to know that after Bishop g5, traditionally, Queen a5, I think, was the main line. And e takes d has revolutionized this variation a little bit. A number of strong grandmasters have played this. Maybe they found a good line for white. I mean, there exists some good variations for white. It was kind of a trend for a while. But I'm sure that good recipes have been found for white in this line. The Iranian Grandmaster Gayem is one who's played it for black quite a bit with success. He's a kind of player I really see a little bit of like a stronger version of myself in that guy. A4 is a classic idea, and I think I have tricks with knight takes d5 and knight takes e4 here. Knight takes e4 not working. Knight takes d5 may be critical here. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes e7. Queen takes e7. A takes b5. Like knight back to f6 perhaps there. Tactical line, I don't recall this particular variation, what's supposed to happen basically. Not that common, not one of the most common lines for white, but it looks playable. I mean, it's logical. You get the pawn back on b5, maybe you get a c4 square for the knight later on. Well, black's main strategic idea in this type of variation is to create a weakness in white's pawn structure. So in this case, the d5 pawn becomes a really important fundamental target. Okay, now if I have time, I'd like to play bishop b7, but my king is still in the center. So I think it's really, really necessary to probably play... I could play bishop b7, actually. Bishop b7, knight c4. I was a little bit worried about knight c4 here. Kind of a concrete move with threats of knight a5. And knight takes d6. Bishop b7, knight c4. I think it's safer to get my king out of the center. Fundamentally feels safer. He played bishop e2 quickly, which shouldn't be too dangerous. I could even take on d2 here with a safe position, I would think. Maybe I can try for more with bishop b7. Not really sure about this. But if white... Knight e4. I think knight c4 is better. I was really worried about that. I feel like I should have taken on d2. Now I can go back. And yeah, it's like this pawn is a weakness. My bishop's bad, but it's a good defender. It might be a powerful piece in the ending. So I think this worked out pretty well for me. Although white's probably still okay. I feel like structurally black is kind of positioned where I'm a little better, and I really don't have a lot of risk here. So queen b6, knight d7. We need to get the pieces developed. You might argue for knight d7. Though in that case he has bishop b6. Although queen b6, queen e2 drops a pawn. That's probably an important line. Queen b6, queen e2, bishop takes d5. Queen b6, queen d3, and I can develop. Oh, his has played well here. Queen b6, queen b3. There's a mosquito. Maybe I got him. I got him. Yes, dead mosquito. Okay. Queen b6, queen d3, knight d7. Who can catch mosquitoes and like analyze variations at the same time? Knight d7 hangs a piece, man. Queen b6, queen d3, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, queen takes b5. Yeah. Okay, so this is probably best. At least you guys get an idea of how to analyze. You have to watch out for like queen d3 and knight g5, threatening mate. This is probably about equal. Yeah. Last variation is bishop takes d5, knight g5. Is that an issue? Knight g5, g6 doesn't seem to really change anything fundamentally in the position. So I guess this is kind of forced. Poor mosquito. Alright, well, I don't think I can do anything else. So the only way I'm going to get my pieces out is to eliminate that target on d5. Guys, this is the last stream for today. Last game for today. Knight takes d6. And do I have a tactic? Can I get a tactic, please? Queen d7, knight f5. Surprise! There's no pin. And white actually is better after that. So that's a really, really powerful knight on d6. Queen d7, knight f5. A happy variation for me. Okay, it doesn't win. I mean, I could move my bishop to like f6 or something. It's probably a draw. But a nice trick, though. Rook d8 hangs f7 with check. So I feel like I have to take this guy. I just don't think there's another option. position is probably a draw. Queen takes b2. Symmetrical. Yeah, I think this is a draw. I'll offer a draw here. It looks like equal. Good game, Hisitnuts. Kind of anticlimactic finish there, but I think that's a correct game, more or less. I mean, it might have made some inaccuracies, but more or less fair enough. So white was never worse. Black got out of any danger. Good game. Thanks, guys, for joining me today. We'll be back tomorrow with more blitz and classical chess here on Lichess. Good game, Hisitnuts. And see you guys tomorrow. Thanks to, he wasn't here the whole time, but thanks to Jeroen anyway for moderating. Thanks to everybody. Sorry about the murder of the mosquito at the end, but it's survival of the fittest here on my chess stream. Take care, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.